G'day friends and welcome to another one of my videos. Now today we'll be talking about the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. It's been around for a while. I just got my hands on it. I've been loving it, but is it still relevant for a novice or amateur movie maker? Stick around and find out. And welcome back. Now that footage was taken in Sydney Harbour today with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Now I've been playing around with this camera. I've had it for about a week and a half and I've been trying to familiarize myself with it, taking the footage which I will share with you in a separate video in its full 4K gloriousness. And so you can see, what the advantages of having a camera this caliber is. Now the 4K is still the entry-level camera for the Blackmagic Pocket Camera series. They've just introduced the 6K Pro, which offers some great new features, and hopefully one day I'll be able to get my hands on it so I can sort of do a demo or a comparison between the 4K obviously and then the 6K. But to talk beyond resolution, I really want to be interested in what the camera delivers based on its new specs. So anyway, about the 4K. Now, why did I get it? So I've been debating for quite some time about which camera is going to be my next, let's say, main camera when it comes to filming and when it comes to making videos. I've been debating trying to get a hybrid. Obviously the price, especially in the new hybrids, it's very high and most of the time was out of my price range. So I thought I'd really dive deep into this particular device to find out if it would meet my requirements from a video camera. Because from a photography perspective, I'm a little bit lackluster. I'm not spending enough time doing photography. Primarily, it's all video. So I thought, hey, this is one of the candidates. So I did sit on it for quite some time. By no means was this an impulsive purchase. And I did, in the end, make the jump now that some of the prices have come down since the new models come out. So there's no denying that the world is going 4K permanently and then obviously 8K. I guess the jump between resolutions is becoming a lot more obvious. If you walk into your local hi-fi store or consumer electronics store, most of the TVs that are on the rack are 4K. And I was trying to make up my mind on which camera system I should stick with. Now, I used to own a Panasonic camera, and so I had some micro four third lenses around that I thought would come in handy. So I had the stock standard kit lens, which is a 12 to 60, and that served me quite well in the past. The lens was still pretty good quality and it did what it was supposed to do. So I use this now as my primary lens on the Blackmagic, and so that's what I'm currently using. I do have another lens which is a telephoto lens that does up to 150mm. Now I don't use that one that often, but I did do some close-ups with it today while I was in the harbour shooting that intro video. Now I did also have a very wide lens, but I sold that one. I wasn't happy with the quality, and so I passed it on to some other lucky guy that bought it off me. Now, so far, so good. Now, there's been some learning for me in the past week and a half in order to get the best out of the camera. But I must say that it is very intuitive. It has a great menu. But let's go through some of those, let's say, pros, why I think that now that I've purchased the camera, I'm starting to understand why other reviewers gave it such high praise when it came out. And let's start with obviously the 4K recording to start off with. Now this thing is a monster when it comes to selecting different modes of recording. It can do Apple ProRes, but it also does a Blackmagic RAW as well, which is awesome because it allows you to pick and choose, depending on the situation, the quality of the RAW recording that the Blackmagic can do. And so far, so good. Now, there are things that I need to tell you about in regards to the different quality of recording and media that's required to do this. But from what I've seen so far from the recordings that I've done in this particular camera, it's been pretty nice and clean, and the images are really crisp. Even though I'm supposedly using a Micro Four Thirds that is an inferior to full frame, I really can't tell the difference. Anyway, maybe I'm getting old and, and my sight's not that good, but it looks fantastic so far. Now, the other thing that's made my life a lot easier is the menus. Now, the menu on this particular camera is very intuitive. It's not like a hybrid DSLR that has to contend with being a photography camera and a videography camera. This one is primarily aimed at video, and so the menus are, I guess, put together accordingly. Obviously, the camera is very powerful, but they just make it easy to use based on the menus. So I'm really happy that the menus make it easier for a novice like me to pick up the camera and start filming things straight away. Now, the other thing that I'm really happy about is the fact that it connects to my beautiful ATEM Mini Pro ISO. I can use it as my primary camera, and I've done the video that I did last week with this camera connected to the ATEM Mini Pro ISO. Now, there are some caveats. Obviously, the ATEM Mini only records in 1080p. But you're getting this wonderful image from the camera sensor and the lens that is being fed in that, and it is quite clean and sharp, and you can really tell, the quality of the camera as opposed to these Sony RX0s that I normally use to record internally. Now, I love the fact that I can use the software on my computer to get focus and to also change, some of the color if necessary. So there are some pretty powerful modifications through the software via the ATEM Mini to the camera in order to get yourself better results when you're in studio recording, or if you're live at an event and you're using these cameras. It is very, very powerful, and I'm only touching, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what I can do with the camera in combination with the ATEM Mini. Now, you don't buy a camera like this unless you're interested in learning something new. And this device is going to give you some food for thought, because it's not just a matter of pressing the button and recording. So you're recording in RAW, which means that you're going to have to do a little bit of a learning with things like color grading, figure out how to use LUTs, which is something that, I haven't needed in the past. But obviously now that this beast is recording in a mode where it captures a lot of high dynamic range, in order to get the best out of this particular device, it's in your best interest to learn how to, grade, or at least how to apply LUTs in order to get the look and feel that you want from what it is that you're creating. So I'm looking forward to deep diving more into that area. I have been obviously learning the basics, like how to load LUTs into the camera, how to use LUTs in either DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro. So it's good from that perspective. And color grading, that's another sort of rabbit hole that I'm going to go down to do some learning. And the great thing about shooting Blackmagic and using DaVinci Resolve, their software, which you get for free. I actually got a copy of DaVinci Resolve 17, which is the latest iteration of their software, bundled within the camera, which is really awesome. Now, I'm still a novice and I'm learning how to use that. I've been using Premiere for most of the time, but from what I've seen from the software, It is really intuitive as well, and I'm having fun actually enjoying how to use it. Now, the both things, the device and the software, work in conjunction to bring out some very powerful features when it comes to recording in RAW. So as you know, RAW tends to produce really large files, but the software allows the compression to be very high, but you lose very little quality depending on the modes that you actually choose. Now, from a novice's perspective, I've been having an interesting time trying to figure out the quality of the RAW recording based on the media that you're using. And I'm going to talk a little bit about media in a second, but it's great to have that option to recording lower file sizes instead of using up all your storage on one video, which is really amazing. So the combination between the device and DaVinci Resolve using the RAW codec of the camera is pretty amazing. Now, from a sound recording perspective, I was really amazed by the versatility of this device. So it comes with a mic jack, so you can put a microphone straight into this and record just like you would using your Rode, video mic or whatever. But then it also gives you the ability to put in a mic using its proprietary adapter. So it's a mini XLR to XLR. And when I was recording that video last week, I plugged my condenser mic or dynamic mic, depending on how you use it, because it's got phantom power, straight into the camera. So this little workhorse allows you to plug in the mics on the side here, and you can then pick and choose. Too many plugs here, too many little things. Anyway, microphone on the top and mini XLR on the bottom there. But what it allows you to do is pick and choose your mic depending on the situations. Now, one of the challenges with this particular camera is the focusing. Obviously, this is not a vlogging camera, so it doesn't have a flippy screen that allows you to, let's say, monitor your own recording as you put this on a tripod or, obviously trying to monitor your focusing. But it does have a fantastic little app that unfortunately you have to pay, which, hey, it's about $7 or $5 US. And it allows you to control the camera remotely through Bluetooth. And now I'm really happy about that, because one of the things I can do when the camera is mounted, and if I'm recording myself like this, and I want to focus on something different, whether I put my hand up there or whatever, just to be sure that I'm actually focusing on the right spot, the device or the app on the iOS or Android device allows you to do the focusing and allows you to get in nice and sharp. It can also do a lot of stuff like aperture and the iris. You can, obviously open up just in case it's too dark. And so it is very functional, and I do recommend that you get it if you are going to be recording yourself. I think it's a little bit of a lifesaver, so you should get yourself that app. It's a good companion for the device. So the other thing I want to say about this camera, especially when it comes to recording in RAW and editing, DaVinci Resolve bundled into the purchase price of the camera is amazing. It is a super powerful piece of software that only gets better with every version. I have fun just discovering all the features and how it's done in DaVinci Resolve compared to Premiere, and I find it just as powerful, and having it bundled into the price, hey, every dollar counts, right? Now, a little bit of realism, now that I've gushed so much about the purchase and justifying the purchase, there are some cons that I must tell you about. And the first thing that I want to talk to you about is battery life. It uses a standard LPE6 battery, so Canon battery. They're pretty cheap, and you can get the no-name ones for like 20 bucks, 30 bucks. But then obviously they get pretty pricey if you go for the original Canon stuff, right? So it's pretty compact, it's lightweight, it really doesn't add any value. I know that the 6K model uses the L batteries, which are a lot more powerful and have more charge. So one of the things you're going to have to do is work out how many batteries you're going to need and to carry around with you, or have a different ways of powering the device. Now, this camera comes with an AC charger. So when I am in the studio, I have not a problem. I just plug it into the AC and then it sort of lasts forever. So that's awesome. I really don't have to really worry about power when I'm indoors. Obviously, another con is the autofocus. So the camera itself doesn't do autofocus, doesn't do it well. It does have some good autofocus button features on the back side. It allows you to do some autofocus and aperture control automatically, which is really handy when you're recording in the field. Just press one button to open up the iris to the desired lighting level, and then you press another button to zoom in on the subject. It has a focus assist, so I use that all the time. It is pretty cool when it comes to that, so that helps. But don't expect to do the old vloggeroony and put this thing in front of your face and expect to get like a clean recording, because it ain't gonna happen. So studio recording, on a tripod recording, using the features in the camera helps a lot. I haven't had a problem. Now, the other thing to watch for is obviously lenses. Micro Four Thirds, there are quite a number of lenses out there made by Olympus, made by third parties, made by Panasonic or Lumix, Leica. There's a lot out there to choose from. But you gotta probably be aware that if you're going to be buying a lens, try to pick a lens that's going to give you a good range in the type of shooting you can do. That's why I like this sort of kit lens, because I can go all the way from 12 to 60 millimeters, which is practically as much as I'm going to be doing with this type of camera. But then at the same time, if you want to use things like zoom, the button to use the zoom in and out, not all lenses do that. I'll probably do a future video on the best lenses for the camera and the reasons why. I've seen a lot of recommendations online, but they all talk about quality of recording and all this sort of stuff. I'm looking for something that's obviously going to record well, but then utilize all the features that the Blackmagic can do for you in software. So I'll be talking more about that. So selection of lenses is really important, and look out for that as well. Now, because this guy only relies on the stabilization, if your lens supports it, it doesn't have IBIS, so it won't do the image stabilization. So you're going to have to consider options on how to balance this guy on a gimbal, if you're going to use a gimbal, or get yourself a nice tripod. Now, while I did that recording today at Sydney Harbour, I used a monopod, and I got myself a really nice Surui monopod that allows me to keep some stability while I'm recording, and that helped a lot. It wasn't perfect, but it helped a lot. I think a tripod would have been better for that type of shooting. But yes, you're going to have to probably do that. Now, if you have a gimbal already purchased, if you already got one, make sure that the angle or it's going to be able to sort of fit the camera, because as you can see, it's off center, and I know that some gimbals may not necessarily be able to carry a camera this wide. There are some kits you can buy that put it off center, so you may need to do a little bit of investigation if your gimbal is going to be able to carry this device. I think from a weight perspective, it's fine. But from a size, I think that's where you need to make sure you have the gimbal that's going to be able to cater for this camera. So what are the things that you may need when you purchase this camera in order to have a better experience after you get it? All right. So the first thing I'm going to recommend, obviously, is either get more batteries or buy the battery grip that's out there that allows you to put 2 extra batteries, and it gives you a couple more hours of running battery life. So that's something I would consider getting if you have the money. Secondly, the other thing I want to sort of recommend is that you buy yourself an external hard drive. And the reason I'm saying that, it's because depending on the shooting that you're doing in RAW, the higher quality RAW, the faster the media you need, and the more media you need. So if you want to use an SD card, so this allows you to use SD cards, you probably won't get the full 4K quality recording on this device. Now, it will use up all that space on that SD card, and it also will skip frames if the SD card is not fast enough. And there is a feature on this that stops the recording if it starts skipping frames. So it could be very frustrating if you are recording in 4K using SD card. Now, the other media that is in here is the CFast card. Now, CFast cards have been around for a long time, but I don't think they're manufactured in great quantities, so the price is really, really expensive. Half a terabyte will cost you about $1,000 or more. They're really expensive. Now, obviously, that is the best way to go because you can fit the card inside the camera. It doesn't take up any extra space, and then it allows you to record on the fly. That is the best way to do it, don't get me wrong, but it's also the most expensive way to do it. So get yourself a hard drive, and the reason I tell you that is because you can get those Samsung hard drives, which are pretty cheap these days. I picked up one, this black one here, which is 1 terabyte for just over $100, which is kind of cool for 1 terabyte. One of the things that's obviously difficult is that you don't want a hard drive just dangling off the camera, and that could cause all sorts of problems. So the third thing I'm going to recommend that you think about is potentially getting yourself a cage for the device. The cage from Small Rig will allow you to add lots of different attachable accessories like the hard drive, and that would probably make your job a lot easier when it comes to taking this camera all over the place and recording stuff. So cage. And lastly, obviously you probably already got one of these around if you do videos, but I would consider getting a mic for you to record in the field. So, a Rode mic, video mic, or whatever, that would be really, really beneficial. And those are the things that I advise you should get if you're buying this camera. If you don't have your lens, obviously if you don't have a lens, you're going to need to get that as well, and that could add to the value. So I had the lenses, so I saved myself a bit of cash, and I'm pretty happy with my purchase so far. So that's it, guys. Some of the pros, the cons, and some of the need to haves with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, which I'm loving so far. So hopefully you found this user sort of a review from a noob videographer, I guess, informative, to say the least. But it's not all the roses when it comes to purchasing the Blackmagic, but once you start learning how to get the most out of it, it is probably going to be the best investment you ever made when it comes to recording beautiful 4K quality videos. So thanks very much for watching this video, and until the next time, ciao for now.